Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Decisions Lunch and Learn. I'm going to be your host for today on Wednesday, June the 4th. I am Gregory Goldston of the Decisions Training Team. Though, if you've been here before, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Let me go over our stuff on the right here. Our Decision Support YouTube channel is a fantastic resource for learning how to build out your projects in Decisions. We have different videos that go into more abstract concepts and how to implement such abstract concepts into concrete building blocks in your environment. We have some that are designed for specific modules, such as the Kafka module that has been added recently. We also have some that just go through one singular step and all of its different functionalities, such as the end form session step. That is to say, we have a lot that's going on there. So, highly recommend taking a look if you are intending to build something in your environment and you're not quite sure how to do it. The content may already be there. The next thing to check out is the Solutions Marketplace. This is going to house our accelerator projects, which are pre-built projects that you can bring into your environment to either reverse engineer to understand how they work in building your own processes, or to modify and potentially use some factors of those inside of your own projects. So, highly recommend taking a look there. Our decisions forum is also linked to that too. We can check other questions that people have posted and the responses. And then the last thing on that right side border there is the product roadmap review. So that has come back and you can sign up for it at decisions.com/events. This lets you see what's coming down the pipeline, especially as far as decisions, newer versions are concerned, newer features, different updates that you might expect to see in the product. Speaking of new things down the road, we are going to have a special guest tomorrow, Josh Lax of the product team, who will be leading a presentation on the AI roadmap in decisions. So, highly recommend taking a look there for any particular reason. Honestly, it's going to be a pretty cool conversation. So with that being said, I see that we already have something in the Q&A already, and we'll start by addressing that, but first let me switch over to my decisions environment. So give me just a moment while I do that. This will not take long, it never really does. And there we go. Okay, y'all should be able to see my decisions screen now. I've got to bring up my participants again because once again, those always get closed out every time I switch screens. And here we go. Our first question is from Helmet. I'm going to allow you to talk, and let me read the question aloud. I have a requirement to toggle the requirement configuration of a text input field based on information retrieved from an external source via an active form flow. I see that the asterisk configuration on a text input field has the dynamic value, but I'm not sure if it will satisfy the functionality I am looking for. All right, so I think I understand what you're asking. We've got a form here, right? So this is going to be validation check form. I'll call it this. You have particular options that are going to be required or not based upon whatever is being selected, correct? So let's call this name. Let's actually make that a little bit bigger here. There we go. Let's call that name here. I want it on the right side. Name, and I'll do the old tried and true name and favorite color. Okay. So let me get an outcome path because that also matters. All right. So when you're saying to toggle the requirement, are you talking about the outcome path for this, whether this is required or not?
Um, I don't think so because I understand the different requirement configurations for the outcome scenarios, but this particular form that I have just really only has one outcome. So what we're hoping for in like the instance that you've got going on here is let's say the names, they retrieve a list of people, right? And then if you choose person A, then favorite color is not required. If you choose person B, then favorite color is required. And so when I kind of looked into this, there's the configurations where you can check the asterisk, whether it's on the right or the left, and then whether it's dynamic or anyway. But that's kind of the idea is based on a value that's chosen in one of it in a drop down, can we then toggle the, you know, basically the required configuration of a secondary drop down or input field or something like that.
Okay. When you say the required configuration, are you talking about the behavior or are you talking about the actual appearance of the asterisk?
Um, I guess both. If I can't toggle the asterisks, to show when it is required and to not show when it's not required, then that's not entirely necessary. But the I guess the thing is the secondary input will sometimes be required and will sometimes not be required. And so I was wondering if that's something that's possible. Like, because I could build an active form flow and I could look at what they've chosen in the first drop down and then based off of that either apply or don't apply a validation.
Hmm.
But I was just under the impression by seeing that dynamic, that term in there, that perhaps this could be done just via the configurations that are there already.
I will check. When looking at the dynamic, I do believe you're probably going to need an active form flow because dynamic is most likely indicating a type of property that is enabled or not, right? So based on some sort of rules. Let me check something real quick. I'm going to create a flow. Give me a
Sure.
moment. So we'll do that. We will run our wrong, not an email. There we go.
Because
Grab this.
effectively, based on that first input, they want to have a drop down that then, could be the second input, but if the first input says otherwise, then that second drop down gets disabled. It's no longer required, and then there's a free text field below it that's the required um, input control.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Let's see value change. Let me check what kind of data we have in this. I think that's going to give us some information here. Let's go Data Explorer, form data. That's the favorite color text box. Hmm. So I'm also in the newer version of decisions, where these are now combined, right?
The text box and the label.
Correct.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha.
So these are
Okay.
now um, different controls. Let me drag a label on just on its own and see if I
Yeah,
get
see if
that.
that's different.
This is also an unstable build, so this might have been, you know, something.
So maybe my understanding is slightly wrong, but this dynamic asterisk here, that's just for the label. That doesn't actually apply or not apply a validation to the input
That is
field.
correct. Yeah, that
Gotcha.
is just for the asterisk. That does
Mhm.
not apply validation. And then the validation source is going to be, let me check if I check that validation source where that's going. Oh, not label for. Hold on. I'm going to exit without saving. Give me a moment. Validation source. And then dynamic means it has to be set somehow, right? So let's figure this out.
Yeah, so you're thinking in the active form flow, another one of those
That's
um,
what I'm wondering.
properties is available.
That's exactly what I'm trying to check right here.
Yeah.
Form data. Does it
Yeah.
check by something in here whether it's enabled? And I will have to look into that. Give me just a moment here. I'm gonna exit, don't save. I'm gonna pull up something on this end real quick.
Yeah.
You won't be able to see it on your screen quite yet. I just want to make sure I've got my ducks in a row here. Because I might have to bring this offline to figure out how to do it dynamically as far as the actual showing of it. As far as the enabled or disabled portion, or whether it's optional or not, you would need your own um, validation.
Right, right.
Yeah. What you would do is for all those that have that ability, you would set them to optional. And then
Hmm.
what you would do from there is have the active form flow that runs that would um either run at start. I'm not sure how you want to do
Yeah,
this,
but
but you run
based
it
on
for
some
the
trigger.
you run it on an outcome here and that specifies it. And by doing this little checkbox, you prevent people from progressing through that form if your custom validation is thrown.
Right. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you will need to set that up separately. But the asterisk, that is a separate matter entirely. And I do want to take a look at this. Let me take a look at this. Give me a moment. Let me see. Hmm. Yeah, it's not giving me a lot to work with as far as documentation wise on asterisk. So I can experiment with that to make sure it looks better as
Hmm.
far as getting that out, and how to actually set this dynamically. But I can say that the asterisk, is not going to affect whether or not this is actually required, and you do that by throwing your own validations.
Okay. Well, that's an answer in itself. So I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. And like I mentioned, I will make sure that I investigate how to do that. I'm sure once I know how, it's like a 5 minute setup, you
I'm
know?
sure. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just it wasn't. Yeah. Not super clear. So okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool, cool, cool. Not seeing any more questions right now, so I might.
I do have another question if
What
there
you
are any.
got? Yeah.
So I have a form with about five inputs, kind of in a column like that. And then based on the first input, the second input um, will disable, and then I'd like to pop up a text box input there.
Hmm.
Um, but typically I work with grids and such like that. And so you have to basically leave a space for that secondary, pop-up text box to show up in.
Right.
Is there an alternative way where you can accomplish this where, everything's kind of condensed, and then if that secondary drop or that secondary box is triggered to enable itself and show up, it just kind of squeezes in there and everything kind of moves around it.
So what you're saying is like, let me call this something else real quick. Let me drag this up. Let me drag this up. We gotta make that a little lower. Oh, not that low. Hold on. Okay. So you've got something that looks like this. You have a checkbox, some sort of a validation, some sort of check, right? And
Yeah.
maybe if this is checked, this goes away and this one squeezes up, right? That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, so or more true to form would be model is not visible from default. And but when that checkbox gets checked, then make is shown but is disabled, and then model is kind of pops up, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I see. So, and you wouldn't want model to pop up down here is the thing. You want it to pop up where make was or pretty close to it, right?
They definitely will still both show. But I if I were to do it like this and I had more fields going down, then I'd have to do make, and then I'd have to leave a space here for model just in case it pops up, right? And then
Hmm.
I'd have to go to the next input, and then I have this actually is going to repeat itself. So there's going to be two inputs that possibly give birth to a second input. And so I can leave the gap in there, right? So that the control shows up as just a visible, non-visible thing. But I was wondering basically if it could go from, you know, just the one, and then it just kind of squeezes in there and I don't have to leave that gap. It just automatically kind of fills the space that it has.
So let me tell you, in the works right now, I cannot confirm the decisions version because it is not confirmed which version it is coming out on, though it is
Uh-huh.
looking to be soon. We are going to have a new layout called a flex layout.
Hmm.
And this layout is going to change the way that these form controls work with each other. And the default is going to be exactly what you're describing, where if a form control is either disappears or is moved out of the way, the other ones will slide in to take its place.
Yeah, yeah.
And on top of that, it's also going to allow you to stretch and squash the form while you're
Mm-hmm.
viewing it and have those controls dynamically rearrange.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So that might not be possible in our 822 that we're in here, but I was thinking, could you leverage a what's it called? Like a
Like a
vertical,
vertical stack.
yeah, vertical stack. So you basically put all of your inputs in there that are possible. You hide the two that show up or don't show up.
Right.
And then that might give you the same kind of behavior.
You might get something similar to it, yeah, because what you might be able to do is oh, it doesn't like that. Probably because there's not a grid inside of it. But
Yeah, you have to
yeah,
put
let me
multiple grids in there and put the
yeah,
inputs in the grid. Yeah.
there we go. Okay. Yeah, these are not gonna, that's fine. I'll put the grids in later. But the idea with this is that you would be able to then potentially have this here we go. Expand these and then scroll right through each one. You could also potentially use a header container,
Hmm.
which would have a collapsible property in it.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So then in here, you get to choose is collapsible? Yes. And then be able to toggle that on and off.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
is that, do you know if that toggle is programmatically, could you affect it programmatically, like in a
Collapse
active
header by
form
data
flow or
name.
something like that?
I believe so. Here's our data name, collapse header
Oh,
by
yeah.
data name. I'll
Yeah.
check collapsed question mark. So let me just confirm that this is an output correctly on the form. Because if this is a form input, yes, you can affect this, absolutely. So let me make sure. Validation. Yep. So here's collapsed. That's a
Uh-huh.
flow data sort of thing, which means that if I go back into this, go into an active form flow, pull from our data. Is it form data or form input data? I think it's form data. Where is it? Where are you? Hmm. Let me look into that. Collapse. There it is. There's
There it is,
the
yeah.
property under header container. So
On the header
yes,
container.
you can set this dynamically to collapse and uncollapse. Yes. So
Okay.
that would give you that functionality in version 822.
Yeah, okay. So that's at least two possibilities there.
Right.
Um, okay. And then you can probably enable or disable that header container so that the users can't uh, do the collapsing or the not collapsing, but rather it can only be achieved programmatically.
Right. So if we uncheck this to initially enable, then you're not affecting the actual model. You're just affecting the header container. So that might be able to do that. I'll check that, but I
You'd
think that
have
would
to
be the
look, yeah.
way. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that gives me some options to work with.
I will say I've seen quite a few customers apply their own CSS to this collapse to kind of
Mm-hmm.
get something more similar to what you're talking about or to like squeeze things together.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to give you that heads up that that is a possibility. That is a workable possibility too.
No, yeah, I think the that collapsibility is actually good. That might work. Okay, thanks.
Of course, absolutely. All right. Jose, you're up next. I see your question. Hello, I have a question regarding the advanced data grid. Is there a way to refresh a data grid in a form whenever I click a run inline flow, like showing the updated value on the data grid after clicking it? Ooh. So let me see here. The answer is yes, you can update a data grid in a form. That is absolutely possible. Can you update it by a flow inline field, though? Let's figure that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
By the way, I am using version 8 of
okay.
Decisions, if that's.
I don't think it's pertinent to this particular question. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem here. So let's go
Mm,
in here. Let's go into the type. I'm going to make it account because I have data and accounts automatically. So we'll do that. Input data type will be my accounts. We'll do that. All right. And then it's an inline edit thing, right? So you're doing an inline edit and then you're making an update or something like that. Okay.
Oh, not really inline edit.
Okay.
So it's a run inline flow, yeah, on the advanced data grid. So if I'm not
Actually, I do
really sure
have
if
one.
that's the name of it, I'll
No,
take a
you're
look.
right. It is run flow inline field. That's what it's called. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Ah,
Yep. So
that
let's
one.
go email address. Let's go created by wherever that went. There we go. Created on date, and then the last one is going to be our calculated column, which is the run flow inline field right here.
Run flow
Yeah.
inline.
Show UI, pick that. We'll actually make a flow for this. We'll get the logic for this in a moment. Let me just get this connected so we have the rest of our stuff set up real quick. And then we'll go to display text. I will just call this update, right? And then we'll save that, hit OK. All right. And now we have all those 4 fields. Save that, save this, exit. And now we want a fetch entities right here, just so we can populate it from the start, right? I'm going to get all my accounts. I'm not sure how you are populating this, but I don't think that's going to particularly matter. As long as it's coming from outside the flow, we've got that data to work with. So flow data, entity results, ignore, ignore, ignore. Okay, save that, exit, debug, run this. We should have accounts popping up here, and then you have some sort of edit that's being made and you're trying to update this. What is
Mm.
being edited and what is being updated?
So technically, the run flow is a clickable name. So the name of it is what they call update or review. Now I can't remember that. Then after that, when I refresh that, it should show the actual data on the run flow column itself. So basically, the data that is populating the name of it is coming from a different or a raw SQL, a different
Okay.
entity.
All right.
So the idea is when I click that run flow, it should refresh, then show the data on the column itself.
On the column itself. So you want this UI text to be updated after you click this button.
Yes, that's the
Ooh,
idea of it.
okay, gotcha. What is it fetching? What are we trying to get here?
It is a string of name and date, but it is the data of it is coming from another or external database.
Okay.
So it shows the data there after I click the run flow inline. Is that clear or does it
That
make
is
sense?
clear. I do understand what you're saying. Okay, can we do that? Let's figure that out. So
Yeah.
let's edit this. We have a run flow inline field. And what we're trying to do is have this display text be dynamic. That is the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So let's think about this. If we use a merge text editor, I have an idea. And that is going to be from a variable. Yeah, I got an idea. Hold on.
Actually, me too, but I think it's just a static data from a create data step, but I'm not sure if that's what you think.
Um, Not quite. Here's what we're gonna do with this. We're gonna create a new data type real quick. It's just gonna be a database structure. I'll do the same thing as before. This is going to be, let's say test. We'll just have a name. We'll have a favorite color, right? And then let's get something that's going to be fetched, right? So this is going to be, I don't know, we'll do favorite food. I don't know. We'll do that just so we can have something else coming in. So here's what we'll do. We'll save this. We're going to create a little bit of data. Give me just a moment. right? Because we need to create some columns for these, all right? So we're going to have a default in all of the data that is created. User-defined database structures create right here. Build data, favorite color. We'll go with we're going to set this to update. This is going to be a decisions structure, all right? So the decision structure by default is going to have an update if it hasn't been fetched already, all right? And then by name, we are going to put in a name right here. So allow me to create one of these, and then we're going to create one more. And then put Jeremy, and let's go with a different color. And then we will debug this. All right, and now we have two. All right, so here's the important thing. That's fine. This is saved. We're going to go into our check form. We're going to populate this with the other data, and we're going to fetch our unique data type that we just created. We're going to alter this. That's not going to work because this needs to be edited right here. The data type is not going to be accounts anymore. It is going to be our test here. We are going to exit out of the run flow. We're going to add, we're going to select the name, we're going to select the favorite color and the favorite food. And then for the, actually not favorite food, we're going to drop that. We're going to add, we're going to calculate columns, we're going to run inline field. We're going to show UI, click this. Actually, we don't need to show UI for this, but it's not going to hurt anything. And then we are going to select favorite food, save that. Okay, save, run, go into our editor right here. And what this will do, pick our existing one. We're going to edit that. All right, cool. Now here's your API call, right? This is going to call that external system based upon your input criteria, right? Yep. So what this will do is this is going to call something, set it for that particular row, and we'll make an alteration. I'm just going to put this as a string. This is our favorite food right here. We're going to save that, save it. Your API call will pull something back. In this case, I'm going to say chicken a la king, and then we are going to pick whichever row that is applied to, right? So if we go into our change value here, we can go into the selected row, go to the selected field, which would be field 3, change the text value on that as the output, save this, run this. Now the question is, can we get a refresh on this? All right, so debug, run this. Now if I click update, is that not field 3? That might be the issue.
I think you need to include it on the column for because field 3
Oh,
is
you want to know?
right.
Ha, there we go. That's the issue. Let's try this again. Okay, interesting. If I refresh, that is not the correct one. Okay, so that's not running properly. That's the issue. We're going to need to do the global debugger real quick, and that's going to let us see what's going on here. So I'm going to open my global debugger, show it, turn it on. You know what? I should probably actually keep that up. We'll keep that running. Don't worry about that. All right, and now check form, run, click update. What's going on here? So our active form flow is coming in, and favorite food, chicken a la king, output favorite food. I think we're outputting it on the wrong column. So what we can do real quick is I can turn this off. Go in here, check form. But you get the idea of that you're going to have some default that's created in your decisions type that's going to display that update. And then on run, it will get overridden with whatever the API call is.
Yeah, I understand that one.
Yep. So this would be a way to do that. Let me edit this, edit this, edit this. And now what we're going to do just to check this is I'm going to create 1, 2, 3, save that. And now if I were to go to input for these, flow data, selected row, we're going to go field 1. Oh, wrong one. Field 2. Field 3. I'm actually going to make one more just in case. And now we can run this inside of our global debugger and see which field actually has what we're looking for in it. Flow data, selected row, field 4. Done, save, run, save. Do that. All right. Oh, I wonder if I need to add it and make it invisible. Actually, that might
Yes.
be it. Do that. Uncheck that. There we go. That actually might be what we need to do here. Let's try that. Save it. Turn this on. Exit. Run it. Let's see here. Update is field 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it is field 3. And this API call should be overriding field 3. And then that output data needs to be able to overwrite that particular selection. Save it. All right. Let's make one more edit here. Let me just override this specifically. Oh, does it not like that because it's not technically a text value? Yeah, it doesn't like
Yeah.
that. Okay. So
It's
let's
quite
try
sensitive.
this. What'd you say?
It's quite sensitive.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so that's the data type that gets overridden. Does this work? Because I honestly am not sure. We're going to find out right now. It doesn't like that. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I guess the third column is not visible because that's the column that you're trying to replace, right?
I'm actually trying to replace the variable that I'm using in my editor right here in my display text.
Mm,
So what I am trying to do is because I am altering the data, I wonder if I actually need to I wonder if I need to alter it by D, but that would require a refetch. This is a tricky one.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah, because you could just make it appear like I could make this visible right here. I could run the flow refresh and then just call it to refetch the data and pass it in. That's not a problem. Just an
Yes.
active form flow can do that. What I'm trying to do is make it overwrite the text
Oh,
of the run flow
yeah.
inline field column. That is the tricky part. It is not
Yeah.
populating a field with that. Yeah.
So basically, it didn't catch the data that you replaced.
That is correct. So what
Yeah.
is happening is it is not doing that. We can send an update to the database, and the next time it would run, it would catch it, but that's not what we're looking for. So what I'm trying to figure out is how to make this run from a click, and if you click it to refresh, send folder change event, send refresh. I wonder if we can make it refetch the data after that. Hold on. Let's try something here. Let's just make sure that this is even possible first.
Mhm.
All right, so now we got that. Fetch all those. And then what we'll do is we'll use a set control. Form data, advanced data grid, and then set those, save that, save that, save this. I'm just going to do this on the checkbox real quick on value chain, just so that we can see it. We can figure out the triggers later. I just want to see if this even works real quick. So debug, run, update. So what it's doing is it's not updating that value. We've just confirmed that's not actually updating the value inside of our step right here. So this is not updating, which means that we are going to have to update this a different way. So I want to get IDs because those are unique. I like working with IDs. That is going to be our
Mhm.
first column now, all the way to the front. That might change which column this is actually. So let me actually change it to column 4 when we go back in. But this is going to be our ID. It is not going to be visible, but that's fine. And then we are going to go to this, edit this, change this to alter selected row field 4 text value. And then we're going to do an update on that. Go to all steps, use define times database structure, Jose test. And we're going to do selective update on that with our particular value. So favorite color doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. We want ID to be flow data, selected row, field 1, text value, save that, pass that in. And then now we are going to update it with favorite food, which is going to be coming out of this, which I actually don't want this change value anymore. I want this rename. Let's give it a try. That's on. Oh wait, I can't run it in the debugger. I got to run it this way. Selective update. Did it work? Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it did. So now, ha! All right. So that does update it. You would fetch it your API. You would do a selective update on that particular row in the data structure to perform that update. And now you have your data right here. Now the last piece of this is to make sure if I click this update, that'll also work. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right. So the last piece of this is we need to make sure the way that this gets refreshed is not by clicking a checkbox, right? We want it to
Mhm.
work whenever this is selected. So let us figure out if there is a simple way to do this, and then I will proceed on to the next questions. So let's go in here. Not going to run at start, but doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's go in here. Let's actually change the, so there's no default trigger that runs on this. So if I were to send, these are all text boxes and validation controls that trigger it to run. I don't know this one off the top of my head, I'll be honest,
Mhm.
as far as how to make it run whenever this refreshes.
Yeah, it's quite unique, but the last thing that I'm using is data repeater, but uh, the client requires me to use data grid, the advanced data grid data
Okay.
repeater is working very well since it is a form, and a checkbox will update it using an active form flow. But since I'm using advanced data grid right now, I'm limited to use run inline. So that's my problem right now, the refreshing of data, showing the updated one.
Right. So let's see here. We're gonna test something. Does refreshing it work? If refreshing it works, then we may have another way to do this. Give me just a moment here. So instead of the active form flow refreshing, let me see if I go in here, change this. We're gonna make this something different just so we can see the update. And then we will save that. And let us see if this functions. If it does not, then we're, this is going to be tricky. But if it does, all right, so I'm going to click this. It does not. Ooh, yeah. The only way I could think this works then, this needs to trigger something. Running the active form flow needs to trigger something. Is there an, can we run exit form in there? Hold on, hold on. Complete, it wouldn't be complete assignment because it's a default. Hold on. Yeah, I didn't think so. I didn't think that was going to work. Exit form. Close form. Is it exit form, close form? I'm
I
looking.
believe it's exit form.
That's what I was thinking too. Time to check the. Form service, form designer service. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. None of these are going to work. I will have to look into that update part as far as how to do that in a more dynamic function within the advanced data grid without closing the form.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the idea of it.
Yeah, let me take this offline and see if I can get something functioning based off of what we've got going right here, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a little bit more time to put something together here than we've got right now.
I see.
Yeah. Vitali does have a potential suggestion, it looks like here. You should be able to talk now.
Sure. It's not an ideal, but it's uh not hard to do. I would just create JavaScript control that would listen to that column, and on any click on that entities of that column, just check that checkbox, which will do what you have accomplished automatically.
So using a JavaScript, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's not gonna be hard. You just listen to the column, and
Mm-hmm.
when somebody clicks on it, you just check the checkbox, and it will refresh.
So it's like clicking the checkbox automatically once
Yes,
there is a changes with the data inside the advanced data grid, right?
yes.
Right. And you would just hide the checkbox, so it's like an invisible one on the form somewhere. It's not something the user sees getting checked.
Mm-hmm. So will it so it will function well even though it is not visible? on the
Yeah,
form?
it functions when it's not visible. Absolutely. In fact,
Mm,
I had the checkbox from earlier, but honestly, the event button is probably what you want to use because as soon as this is clicked, it kicks it off automatically. You don't have this check uncheck behavior.
mm-hmm. All
Yeah.
right. Okay, I'll definitely try that one.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you so much.
Um, okay. Cool. Let's go into our next question from Robert. You have a quick question around form inputs into fields that are marked for output only. All right, you should be able to talk now. What you got?
Yeah, so if you have just a form and one of your inputs to the form is got an event like, you know, a data structure. And so you're filling out the form with multiple different parts of that data structure. And then say there's like a drop down that you want users to be able to, output just a certain, like to a certain aspect of the data structure. Does
I
that
think I understand.
affect like the inputs to it, or so say like an approver comes on down the line and the drop down's already been selected,
Okay.
but we have it marked as output only. Will it still be mapped to the overall data structure input, or is it not going to have anything there? Does that make
S-
sense?
I'm trying to I'm going to repeat just to make sure I think I understand this. So you have an approver form that's going to get sent to someone, and that's going to have something that's pre-selected in a dropdown.
Based on the data structure going into the form.
Okay, the data structure is going to have one that's pre-selected, and then you're asking, does it still output the same pre-selection?
Does it having the output only marked, does that override the data structure input?
Oh, I see. So if I set this, does it prevent, so if I were to not go into this, is there going to be, where'd it go? Hello? I don't even see it on the output. That's crazy. Hold on. Where'd it go? Hello? You saw me at it.
Because
So
you don't have a
favorite
type,
food, combo
maybe?
box. Maybe because I don't have a type. That might be why. Let's just go with string for this. List input source is going to be a data name. And then I'm going to call this food. I'm just going to call it food. And then you're saying that you have the output only selected
Hmm.
in, there we go, output data. So does that affect the incoming? I actually don't know. We're going to figure it out right now. Okay. So if I were to pass in a static list, is the one that's pre-selected from the input of the form, or is it an active form flow that's pre-selecting it?
So the list would be populated by an active form flow, but the selection would be pre-selected by the data structure.
By the data structure. Wait, so you're passing in a data structure that has a pre-selection, and the active form flow checks that pre-selection and sets it as the pre-selection in its dropdown?
No, it would already, so it basically, say we have, I'm just going to use these fields right here. You have, you know, frequent customer or whatnot, and
Okay.
that frequent customer is set up to have their name, their favorite color and food. So all you would pass into this form would be your frequent customer, and
Okay.
then each of these fields would then be mapped to that specific data structure element.
Okay.
And so at approver, it would already be marked that the food is whatever their favorite food is, but that list is still there in the background. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. The
And
list is populated, but you have it pre-selected from input data to the form up here that you're selecting from, right?
yes,
I got you.
yes,
I got you now. Okay. And you're asking if setting this to output only would disrupt that.
yes.
Okay. I don't know off the top of my head. I will check that
Okay,
for you. Yeah. Let
okay,
me make sure that I run some tests on that as well as for Jose, and I will be checking that for you. Yeah, I'll send you a example project, either one way or the other, or just an answer if it's like a no, it doesn't, change anything, you're fine,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, let me check that for you. Cool. Sounds good.
Okay, yep. And then I don't know if the one
Uh,
previous
I can
person is
I,
here.
I can answer
Um,
this. There's a one quick question right after yours, and this will take me 2 minutes to answer, then we'll address your next question. So,
okay, yeah.
the answer to that one, are you going to be posting the 529 LNL? I heard that you went over the 9.11 flex grid layout in that session. The answer is no. That one's actually not going to be posted to the YouTube channel because a lot of that is still in beta. It's in the works right now. Same situation is probably going to be happening with the same one that we have going tomorrow for the AI roadmap. So just a heads up on that. Okay. Um, with that answered, Robert, what was your second question?
No, it wasn't a second question. It was more just a comment on a previous person's question about the resizing
Yeah.
elements.
hmm
We've done that a lot, and we're in 8, um, 14 or something, but we do it with the vertical stacks or horizontal stacks.
hmm
And we place that in the grid space that we want, and then uh, have it set to fit um, children or whatnot.
hmm
And so we then, based on active form flows, it will uh, hide or show or hide um, whatever is necessary. So
I see. So it hides the other ones, and because it's designed to fit it, it's just going to readjust it from there.
yes.
Cool. I will absolutely
Uh,
suggest that as well. I still do have that question, so I can send a message out as well.
mhm.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I would like to get a functioning test for them as well. Cool beans. Um,
Yeah.
that is all of the questions in the queue right now. I'm gonna kind of give it a classic going once, going twice sort of thing. If anyone has anything further, pretty much everyone except Justin's unmuted. I'll just unmute you, Justin, if you want to just say, just so people can try to say something real quick if they're not able to type it fast enough. But yeah, going once and going twice. All right, and I think that is going to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, please check out the AI roadmap lunch and learn that is going to be taking place tomorrow. Same time, different person leading. Look forward to seeing you all there.